Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this legal webinar run by Kaizen Synergy Law Firm from our Governance, Risk and Legal Compliance and Policy Centre here at La Trobe Law School. I'd like to welcome everyone to this legal webinar, the first one that we are running for 2026. These legal webinars are run each month and it covers a specific topic that NDIS providers need to be aware of, and it is specifically based on the NDIS standards. Today's session focuses on incident reporting, and all of the resources, including the webinar slides and also a recording of this webinar, will actually be made available to all registered attendees. That said, we'd like to welcome you all to today's session. Today's session, as I mentioned, focuses specifically on the incident reporting. It comes out of the work that our law firm has done with NDIS providers right around the country. We do provide individual legal advice and also support to NDIS providers across all different aspects of legal matters that NDIS providers have. As part of this, you will get access to the Gemba360 NDIS Legal Resources Dashboard. This dashboard you can access and it gives you demonstration access into the portal for you to actually access the different resources. In here, it does cover a range of specific modules, everything from incident reporting that we will look at today, but also there are other resources that providers use. This covers all of the NDIS policies and documents, along with e-learning modules, which are also located on here too, which you will be able to view, and then all of the other registers that you can see on here, including HR modules, but it gives you a full set of legal resources to use within your agency. As I mentioned, it includes the e-learning modules across all of the individual NDIS standards that providers use to ensure that their staff remain updated as part of the process. It also, as part of this, because we would do so much work in this space with NDIS providers, this allows us to support NDIS agencies exactly like yourselves in being able to meet all of your audit requirements. So within this, if you do wish to use this within your agency, there is a subscription arrangement cost which covers this per month, but it also importantly covers legal advice to your agency too. So it means then that it is unlimited users, unlimited staff, unlimited documents that you have access to, and you can also access the legal support should you have any questions around that too. But you do have demo access to access this site, to access the resources today, and also in our future webinars. So I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. With that, this is an interactive webinar, and what I mean by that is you can submit an incident report yourself. It might include a matter that you have or a challenge that you have. Simply use the QR code on your screen now, and you'll be able to submit an incident report today, and we'll actually look to workshop at least one of these working through today's session. So let's move forwards. With it, in this legal webinar, we are going to be covering the introduction on what incident reports are. We're going to be looking at policies in terms of what you need to have within your agency to meet the NDIS standards. We're going to look at what a reportable incident is, what are the types of incidents under the NDIS standards, how to report an incident, what the NDIS standards actually say, and some questions and contact of it. If you do have any questions, during or after today's session, you can just reach out directly to me. My contact details are listed here, but you will get copies of all of this material that I'm showing you today. So essentially, when we talk of incident reporting, apart from just starting with the specific NDIS standards, our law firm actually goes back and looks at what are the specific legislation and rules that your agency as an NDIS provider must comply with. And essentially, the requirements are listed under the National Disability Insurance Scheme incident management and reportable incident rules. Now, this is important to be aware of, only because when it comes to what you need to do and when, while the NDIS standards give you some guidance, essentially the powers of this come from this specific legislation. As part of this, there is also a policy that a lot of organizations will often use to meet and demonstrate compliance with the NDIS standards, and in particular around incident reporting. Now, when I look at this, essentially we do have a template policy that I will show you, and this policy document is also being made available. We want to have a look at that just now, but all to say that the incident compliance requirements is under Section 73Y of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it must apply to all staff, participants, and contractors affiliated with your company. It is the responsibility here of all employees and participants to comply with this policy to ensure all incidents are managed appropriately. Often we get asked from NDIS providers about policy reporting and also whether or what happens if employees or contractors under your company do not follow policy requirements. Well, essentially, it is a compliance requirement under the National Disability Scheme that they do complete this. Second to that, it is important that you be aware that specific policies covering incident reports are made relevant to cover certain reporting requirements for you. And you'll find that we do have these policy templates. If I go back one step, here we are here, you'll find that we actually do have samples of the incident report policy here for yourselves to be able to access. And quite simply, if I just search for this here, you'll find that this allows you to be able to actually bring this up. And also here we are here, incident management policy document. And this will just download. And it is a Word document that you can use. And if I bring this up, simply click on this, you'll be able to actually have a policy that covers all these reporting requirements by simply replacing my agency template with your agency name, and you've got a policy document ready to go for yourselves to be able to use. So that is a supporting document that you do have access to. I will circle back to this, but I wanted to cover off what the legal requirements are that you need to be across as part of your NDIS compliance obligations. So let's have a look at reportable incidents. The first question that agencies often ask us is, what is a reportable incident? Well, a reportable incident is defined as an act, omission, event, or circumstance that has or could have caused them harm to the person with a disability. For an incident to become a reportable incident, it must importantly satisfy specific requirements. And this is here under the NDIS incident management reporting rules, and also if the incident has occurred or alleged to have occurred in connection with the provision of supports or services that you are providing. So it is very, very broad. That said, there are specific types of reportable incidents, and these are listed here. It can be a death, serious injury, abuse and neglect, unlawful sexual assault, sexual misconduct, or the use of restrictive practice. Now, a lot of organisations will actually contact us where there is a specific issue that they have. We've had, for example, a organisation contact us just in the last few weeks around unlawful sexual physical assault, where it was reported by a participant, but when they investigated it, it was found that the participant's imaginary friend had actually been involved in this matter. So again, that's where our legal advice to the agency was, well, it wasn't quite a reportable incident in this stage because it involved an imaginary friend. And with that, there are quite different circumstances where this may occur and where this may not actually occur after further investigation on this. Now, the timeframes for reporting an incident is critical. Most incidents must be reported within 24 hours from when the provider became aware of the incident. And this is often a case where providers contact us and say, look, we have gone through the channels. It's been reported 2 days ago, but we only became aware of this incident today. What do we do? Again, it's a lot of these is a case of what is relevant to your agency and how does this actually occur. We essentially say that it's important when you report an incident to ensure that staff are across what their reporting timelines are. And this is where systems, when we do have approaches, and I'll just go back to this, a lot of organizations will use systems like our Gemba360 NDIS Dashboard, and you will have access to this. So part of this is to ensure that your system, when you have it, essentially allows for a notification to come through. So this is a sample of one of the incident report forms that we have. You will be able to access it today to be able to look at ensuring that you have an appropriate system in place. This essentially allows for things like the date and the time that the incident was lodged. And once a staff member actually lodges this, it will notify the appropriate line manager automatically, whether it be either to their email or even to their mobile device. But it is critically important that you look at what is the ability for your agency to report on and meet these specific compliance timelines. So how do you then identify the types of incidents? Well, types of incidents can be identified in various ways. They might be witnessed by a worker, disclosed by a person with a disability, or reported by somebody else. It is important that all staff know and respond to when an incident occurs, including reporting and recording it appropriately. This is the critical side when we look at it from a legal point, and organisations ask us for advice while they're actually making the report. And it's important from a reporting side to actually document as much of the information that staff are aware about. And it's important that it is important that you build a culture where staff feel confident and supported to report in specific incidents, and no matter how minor or serious they may seem. Some incidents are clearly obvious, like something witnessed firsthand. Other incidents may be a little bit harder where it involves abuse or neglect, and which is why vigilance is so important. But importantly, if it is reported by a third party, then again, your incident reporting system needs to be sufficient enough to meet these reporting obligations. Now, the incident types can be defined into a number of categories, and this is taken directly from the NDIS standards. What we are going to do is flip through these fairly quickly because we are going to look, well, what happens when you get one or more of these issues arising. So we've got the definitions of what physical abuse is, sexual abuse is indicators and physical signs. So it doesn't have to be just something physical, but there can be behavioral factors that come into play. Psychological abuse, again, it's important to look at behavioral indicators and physical signs, and these are listed here. Domestic violence can also be physical or behavioral indicators where someone is being overly compliant. They may be depressed, or there's withdrawal or crying or emotional behavior. And neglect is a very, very broad area. It may be that there is inappropriate or inadequate shelter or accommodation. There may be weight loss issues. There may be effects of social isolation or loss of social and communication skills. A lot of these indicators may cross over a number of different areas. Now, we often get asked when someone is lodging an incident, what happens if they lodge an incident and then they change their mind because what an indicator may be was just someone's behavior? Well, in that case, I will show you what we actually do in this circumstance, and I can see there's a couple of questions that people are that are asking in relation to that, and I will circle back to that. So when you report an incident, this is so critical from a legal side to ensure that you meet your compliance obligations. There are a number of steps that you need to follow. Step one is correctly identifying an incident, and often this is coming through by a worker. What is important is that you record the details of the impacted person, look at the description, look at the initial response, and the impact on a person with a disability. What is important is that you interview the person who allegedly committed the abuse. And what we say is do not do this initially. However, if a worker witnessed an abuse, they should record what they saw and heard and include anything that was not directly heard or seen, and include opinions or interpretations. And that is, we want to keep this. And why we say do not do this at this stage is because we want to have the information not made more complex. We want to actually have the information at hand. But if someone does do this, then it's important that you identify what is actually being said here. It is important that you look at an immediate response and reporting. So immediately support the impacted person, ensure impacted persons are safe from harm. Again, contact police, contact the ambulance if someone is injured. Now, we had a circumstance where an immediate response was taken because of a sexual assault case just in the past few weeks. At that time, when the immediate response was required, the participant had reported that they had a sexual abuse, that it was a sexual abuse, and a support worker substantiated that information at the time. So the NDIS provider did actually contact the police and also take action immediately. What then happened was they then stepped into the provider responsibilities part. So it looked at what were the requirements of the worker. They investigated the information. They commenced drafting the notification for the 5-day form to ensure that the NDIS compliance obligations were met, and then were reviewing the information at hand. Prior to that, what they then looked at was then interviewing the participant. And at that stage, from this case study, they actually found that the participant actually made this information up. It was um, their imaginary friend in this circumstance that actually was involved in this case. Now, that's an unusual circumstance, but it just goes to show how important it is for NDIS providers to actually properly investigate an incident report as it happened and looking at the timelines for this. From here, what you then do is look at the post assessment. So carry out actions that need to occur, look at what remedial action should be taken, and how to action any outstanding matters following a action event that needs to be done. Now, implementing the incident management system on this, which is required under the specific legal compliance rules for the NDIS standards. And it's also important that you do this from an audit side and to meet your audit requirements. So this slide here talks about looking at what the system should cover, what the policies, procedures should be looking at, training support workers in this space as well, and identifying what should go on from here. Now, on this, if I just go back to our system here, and I want to have a look at this here with you. So under this section, and you all do have access to this dashboard to access. So essentially when I go in, you can click on the NDIS Participant and Staff Incident Report Register. It is a red button down the bottom. I simply click on that and it comes in. Now, I lodged an incident report using the QR code at the start, and here it is here. I can see it appear on here. So I reported this and I just marked in that it's an issue with medication. I marked that it was a risk identification. It was high because it involved a participant. And also, yes, it marked in that it was a medication review. What happened, medication box does not appear to be correct, is what I said, and the exact place of the incident, along with the participants' details as well. And we had then the details being shown of the general information that was listed here. What came out of this was that there was no police that needed to be called. First aid was not done. I can then complete this incident report and reference a number of actions and details taken. I can say we have contacted the local GP to assist review of the medication and the participants' file will be updated later today. Okay, so once that's done, then we have this. We've also said that for an outcomes or action to prevent reoccurrence of this, well, then every 3 months, GP will review this, but we will review this participant, and BSP will be informed too. Okay, so once we have this, we can then go through, we can then mark what's been done, and quite simply, when it comes to who needs to be notified, I can say none of the above, and also it doesn't involve any of the specific abuse issues reportable to the NDIS here. So this way, I just simply select no report from here. And what I can see is then that none of this then accordions out. All I simply do is mark this as completed and click on save. And that now updates this of what's been done. If I want to have a look at the logs, I can see all that's been taken action as of 11:24 today. This matter has been closed and what's gone on. So you can see from an incident report side, this makes compliance easy to be able to manage all of your incident reports and reporting requirements from a legal side. Obviously from a legal perspective, when we work with NDIS providers, it is critically important that you look at not only what the requirements are under the NDIS standards, but what implementation process you have to implement risk management and manage your incident reports within your agency. That said, we will be circulating out all of this material, including the login details to the dashboard today for you. If you do have any questions following today's recorded webinar, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. By all means, you can reach out to us directly on our support email, either directly by my mobile, or we are open for yourselves to drop in and visit us here at La Trobe Law School. We will be running a general information session on site here that is actually open to all providers on the first week of April too. So we will send out invites to all NDIS providers, and that session is an open session where we will be actually spending the morning unpacking the NDIS standards and make that available online for yourselves to access. That said, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm more than happy to stay online and answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, if you do have any questions after today's session, by all means, please reach out to us. We will contact you today to answer any other questions that you might have.